About a year ago, I posted a video called My University Experience. At the time, I had just graduated from the University of Toronto with a business degree, and I was going through all the emotions. So if you missed it, go check out the description box below for a link. I also recently posted a blog post where I got into more detail about my residence experience. Lots of good stuff there, but I mentioned that video because this video is kind of like a sequel to that one. It's been a year since I've been out of the school bubble, and I wanted to kind of share how this year has gone and answer some common questions about life after university and college that I got on Instagram. For anyone who's been following along this channel for the past year, it will come as no surprise to hear that I spent this year creating content for YouTube full-time. Not only do I have more time now to really immerse myself in the creation process, but I also have the available headspace for it. I feel like so often during university, I just kind of felt pulled in two different directions. And often it's like I needed to get schoolwork done, so I felt like creatively I just wasn't able to show up in the same way for my content, or not show up in the way that I wanted to. Like I couldn't invest as much time into the videos. I couldn't invest as much time into really planning them out. And now, because I don't have all these deadlines, like that is much less of a problem. The channel is growing and I've been able to work with lots of great brands this year. I feel like at this point I really adjusted to the working from home life and being in charge of my own schedule. And I was watching last year's video just to kind of see what kind of concerns I had for working for myself full time. One of the things I had mentioned was the fear of becoming a hermit. And I'm proud to say that at least until quarantine happened, that didn't end up being my reality, which is a really good thing. But something I have learned is that you have to be intentional to make sure that that doesn't happen. So, you know, I did make a point of getting together with my girlfriends for coffees or dinners or shopping trips, or just getting out of my apartment every day, doing errands, going for a walk, just making sure that I don't isolate myself too much. And I think having a job on social media helps a lot too, because when I post content and get comments, or I go in my DMs, like I get to have conversations with you, and that definitely helps me feel a lot less, you know, by myself in my own bubble. I just feel so grateful to have this job, to be able to call this a job, but it definitely doesn't come, or it's not definitely not always puppies and rainbows. There are some things that I've struggled with. One of those things is, and I mentioned it in the first video, is just becoming more comfortable with uncertainty as it pertains to, you know, the stability of my channel, the stability of my income. I'm a big planner, so those factors being uncertain isn't always within my comfort zone. But I feel like the way I've been able to combat that discomfort is by like taking more control in other areas of my life, like my finances, making sure that I have a really good understanding of my financial position, and that I'm being smart with how I distribute my money, which I did a whole video on how I manage my money. And I go into details about changes that I've made that have had huge impact in this last year. I also now have like a strict no weekend work rule. At first, it was really hard to shut off, and I actually feel like that's something I really nailed down during this season of social distancing, because working, you know, at my parents' place right now because I'm quarantining with them. When you're forced to stay at home for such a long time and you don't even have the freedom to really like go to places to give yourself that mental break, it's more important than ever to kind of separate your weekends from your weekdays. So I think that's something that I'm going to be taking with me moving forward, is Monday to Friday is working time, Saturday, Sunday, no. I think the obstacle that I'm probably most still trying to kind of overcome and heal is my own expectations for myself, which I think are often a little ridiculous. I am a recovering perfectionist who tends to focus on the things I'm not doing and not appreciate the things that I am, or just being very critical about my work. I always have to remind myself that I'm one person, I can only do so much. I'm still also living in the city, even though right now I'm at my parents' place, but living alone, loving city life. Love the fact that I invested the time into making over my apartment and really creating those separate work and life environments by creating an office that's separated from my bedroom so that I can go to my office to do work and then feel like I'm kind of checking out once I get out of that space. Not gonna lie, I do not miss classes and tests and exams and all of that. Yeah, I go through and experience stress now, but I feel like my stress levels as a student were just like on another level. My brain just always felt occupied with stuff that I was trying to retain and learn and things I was trying to memorize for tests. I do miss learning though, like having an environment that challenges my brain constantly. So even now I've been looking into masterclass courses and doing some more Skillshare courses. I recently bought a Jenna Kutcher course and that's all about social media, so that's been good. Like things just to kind of inspire me and learn from people that are successful in their fields. I think that's really important to keep on top of. I recently launched a blog as well, and I am so happy that I did that. A large part of the reason I did that was because I realized that I was approaching almost a year mark of being out of school, and I hadn't written anything longer than like an Instagram caption or an email. And that was so upsetting to me because in school, because of the nature of having essays and assignments, I was always writing. And I feel like I'm a fairly decent writer, but writing is one of those things, it's like a muscle. You have to kind of work it for it to keep improving. So my biggest fear was that I would just go like years and years without writing and I would lose that skill, which I think is a really valuable skill to have. One day I want to write a book, so obviously you need to know how to write a book. So getting into that habit of writing long form content again in the form of blog posts has been a welcome addition into my life. This was one of the most common questions that I got on Instagram, and I think it's totally understandable. We go, almost 18-ish years, probably more if you're going to graduate school, but we spend so much time being told, here's what your life's gonna look like, go take these courses, go take these classes, and then practically overnight, that template is no longer part of your life equation, and it's totally up to you to figure it all out. Obviously, it's terrifying, but I think you also have to look at this as an opportunity where you have the freedom to choose. Like, you get to dictate which direction you take your life. And I know that can cause like more fear for some people if you are really unsure of what direction to take. But you do not have to have all the answers right now just because you've graduated. I don't have all the answers about my life just because it's been a year now. And I think too, like 22, 23 is such a weird time because you've got people doing such different things. Like some people your age might be in long-term relationships and getting married and having babies. And some people are like still in school. Some are living at home. Some are starting their jobs. Some have already had jobs for years. Like, it's just such a spectrum of activities that people are doing. All of this just kind of makes me constantly feel like I'm questioning whether, I'm doing the right thing, if I'm on time with life. At the end of the day, you're not behind, you're not ahead. Everyone just operates at their own timeline. If everyone was doing the same thing at the same time, life would be so boring. It's great to have vision and goals, but to get too worried about having certain things done or be at certain stages of your career by certain dates is not going to do you any good. I think at this stage, you just really have to take it one step at a time. Give yourself the grace and freedom to try and figure out what this new normal is. Even the most put together people, I'm sure, have doubts about where they're at and about what their future has in store for you. So you do not have to have all the answers. I don't feel like structure has been as big of an issue for me in terms of feeling like I have some motivating factor to get stuff done. Like in school, like you have deadlines for assignments or finals, tests, that sort of thing. But now working for myself, I still have deadlines. Sometimes they're deadlines set by other people because I have branded content that I need to submit for approval. But I also have self-made deadlines, which really keeps me on track. So I have like things that I do need to get done, even though it might not be the same way like as it was in school because I'm the one giving myself these deadlines. I use planning tools like my bullet journal for to-do lists. I use online management software for projects. I have a Google Calendar where everything like to the hour is usually scheduled out for my week, and I'm constantly switching up that schedule. I think naturally it's going to be harder outside of school to make friends just because the school environment is usually filled with people in your age group, and those people are ones that you're probably going to be able to relate to on a lot of things just because of that alone. So there's more of a chance of like you finding someone that you gel with. I would imagine though, if you work in like a traditional like work environment, having that coworker experience probably helps. As someone who doesn't have coworkers, I really in the last year have made a point of saying yes to more things, whether it's events to go to so that I can meet people or just one-on-one meetings. It's definitely something you have to be intentional with. You have to make it a priority, and I feel like I can be doing a better job with that. So that's something I will be working on over the next few years. But maintaining relationships just as much as gaining new friends is also something that you have to be very intentional about, because people aren't in your same bubble anymore. They're off doing different things. So for example, I will schedule things like check in with so-and-so or FaceTime this person into my schedule if like I'm feeling like I'm getting into a busy work season and it's going to be easy for me to get caught up with my own stuff. Thankfully, social media exists, so I think it makes it a lot easier too to like, you know, share content with your friends and kind of connect that way. It really does require effort, and even though I've always been someone who values the quality of my relationships over the quantity of them, now more than ever, like that is something that I focus on. We often talk about like the value of investing time into our romantic relationships, but friendships are so valuable. So I want to make sure I'm always making them a big priority in my life. And I want to make sure I'm investing that time into the right people, people who inspire me, people who I think are just good, kind individuals, humans in the world, people who when I'm around, I feel good, who listen and who I feel like I can also be a listening ear for them. You know, relationships aren't just one way. It's not just about what they can give me. It's also like what I can give them. Not the most revolutionary advice, but I do think it's really important to take that moment to celebrate your success. I know for some people, historically at least, that has meant going on a trip or buying something as their reward for getting to the finish line. If that's the way you want to celebrate, awesome. But I think more importantly, you got to take that mental moment to just say, hey, take a look at all the things that you did in the last 4 years. Think about like your highlight memories. Think about some of the lessons that you've learned, the things that you're most proud of, and give yourself a little pat on the back. Especially if you're going into the workforce right away, it's easy for this moment to kind of just like happen without you even realizing it happened. So make sure you're not just letting it go by, and give yourself the high five you deserve. I also think a really great thing to do, and it might not seem like the most exciting thing in the world, is to record kind of like your thoughts, your feelings, a reflection, whether it's in a journal or on video or through a voice memo. Just document kind of your headspace right now. Because one thing that I think is so cool is that I have a video from last year at this point of transition, and watching it back even today, I was so amazed by like how much life had changed and how certain fears I had like aren't fears anymore, and just being able to kind of see like little pieces of growth that have happened, and that's only in the past year. So I'm sure that's going to be a video that I really love watching again and again as I get older. And I know a lot of people don't like document their lives because they're not putting their lives on YouTube, which fair, but you know, have that for yourself, like give yourself something to look back on. There can be a lot of pressure to go to graduate school. I personally still get asked about whether or not I'm getting my master's all the time, and I've repeatedly said like I do not have any intention of getting it because it just doesn't feel like something that I really want to do. It doesn't feel like the right step. I feel like at this point people like kind of associate getting your undergrad as the same as getting a high school diploma. It's just kind of like what a lot of people expect. And now it's like the extra thing you can do is graduate school, which for certain careers you have to go down that route. So it makes sense. And it's hard to give blanket advice about whether or not you should or shouldn't go, because circumstances are different for everyone and for what you want to do in life. Is it a requirement for that career? If not, like, why are you going to graduate school? Do you really care about the subject? Are you just trying to buy more time as a student so that you don't have to make big life decisions? Like, there's a lot of things to consider there. But I will say that a decision like going to graduate school that requires a lot of time, a lot of commitment, a lot of money shouldn't be made based on other people's desires for you to get a graduate degree. I think it has to come from you, or else like doing the actual work is going to be miserable if it's not even something that you want. And I think in general, like any decision, big life decision, being made because of other people it's dicey business. You are responsible for the repercussions of your decisions. So I feel like ultimately, like, you have to make the ones that you feel right making. That's just my 2 cents. I get it though, it's tough. Oh, I feel so bad when I answer questions like that because I don't feel like I give like an actual answer, but I can't give you an actual answer or else you'd be making a decision based on my opinion, which I don't want you to do. I definitely still have a hard time disassociating myself with the student label. I think there's a lot of comfort in that label because when you're a student, you can almost put off a lot of life decisions, adulting decisions that otherwise, like if you weren't a student, you'd kind of have to be confronted with. And I think the impulse is then to shift that identity to like what you do for a living, like work-wise. But who you are is a lot more than what you do. It's your passions, it's your interests, it's your values, it's how you see the world. I am more than a BCom graduate. I am more than just a content creator. I am also a friend, a sister, a daughter. I love books and coffee and baking and trying new things. I love connecting with people and I love honoring my Portuguese background. And you know, there's so many things. You just like take that moment to actually like think about what makes up you. You can find a lot of other things beyond just what you do in life. I will say though that if you are in student mode still and you do feel like student is such a big part of your identity, it might be an indication that you're not investing as much time maybe as you could into your interests and your hobbies and into your friendships. It's easy to make your life all about school because school, there's always more that you can be doing for school, but you have to give yourself that time to live life as well. But if you've already graduated and you're still feeling a little bit lost, I think a helpful question to ask yourself is, when do you feel the most joy? What are you doing? Who are you surrounded by? I think if you're being honest about your answers to those questions, that can help give you some sort of direction, because ultimately those are the things that you're going to want to invest more time into. There was a question that I didn't get to today that you still would love to hear me talk about. Leave them in the comment section down below, because maybe I'll even do a follow-up like blog post or something where I can answer some more stuff. I'll probably also answer some of those directly in the comments. This is a big period of transition, and I think ultimately, like, I just really wanted to do this video to let you know that it's normal to be a bit confused right now. Still don't know how life works, still trying to figure it out. And to be honest, as I get older, the more I realize I don't think anyone really knows what they're doing. Obviously we get older and experiences help guide us, but none of us have lived life before. So we're all taking our first crack at it. And that means like it's gonna be normal for us to kind of have doubts along the way beyond just this transition from student to adult. That's comforting and also terrifying. I'll still be doing some back to school content in the summer, like digital note-taking tips, probably a stationery haul in there. So things to look forward to. Any requests that you have are also very much so welcome. Like this video if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already, and I will see you all very soon with a new video. Until then, bye everyone. Por todo yo brindo, desde lo feo hasta lo lindo. Tú eres una prueba que el mundo a mí nunca me brindó.
quería casarme. Yo tan loco en ilusionarme, creyendo en tus besos y tus caricias. La verdad no